Hello, Shelby.
Hello.
Super excited to see your face.
I know it's been crazy, like
Dirk, come
ever,
here and say
forever.
hi. Dirk's gonna peek his
Hello.
head in.
Hi, Jack. How are
Hi.
you?
You're
Hi.
a little tiny 4-year-old last time you saw him.
I know. I
The
know.
oldest you
You're
saw.
huge. I know. How you doing?
Good. How about you?
Good. You have a nice Christmas?
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, you gonna go?
Yeah.
Have fun. Him and Mike are gonna go hang out in the bedroom and watch something. I don't know.
Oh, that's cool.
You gonna come say hi, Mike? Peek your head around the corner. Here you
I've seen.
come.
Oh, cool.
Oh, oh, oh.
Where's he?
Hello.
Hi, Mike. I haven't seen you guys in so long. It's so crazy.
No, well, I was telling you this morning, 2015. That's the last time we've seen each other's faces for real.
That's messed up. I know, and I like. I mean, it's bizarre.
And I
I
think
just feel like totally different.
we have only talked on the phone once since then.
I know it's messed up.
It's so weird. And considering the hours and hours and hours that we spent talking on the phone in the 80s.
And the hours and hours that I slept while you while you were getting mad at me, yelling at me on the phone.
Right.
You'd be like 2 o'clock in the morning. You'd be like, "Shelby, are you sleeping?" I'd be like, "No,
I know. Well, nobody could ever outlast me ever.
no."
I mean, ever. And it's kind of still that way to this day. I'm always the latest person up, whatever.
That's the truth. I was always asleep though, and yeah, I was always snoring or something, and you were always getting mad.
No, no, but here's the thing. You didn't get any sleep ever because you went to school, then you went to work, and then you would run around with us until like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then go straight back to work. So
I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, how did I even survive?" I think
I
I had like
know,
2
'cause
hours of sleep a
like
day.
literally, sometimes we would pick you up from work and then go running until like 3 and 4 in the morning.
I know. I was seriously thinking about that the other day. I'm like, how did I even survive at all? Because now it's like I go to bed at like 9:30 because I'm old
Yeah,
and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I'm going to bed at 9:30. It makes me so sad.
I know. I only do it out of necessity because I have to get up for work. If I didn't get up for work, I would still stay up all night. I'm
I would too, probably.
just a night owl.
I gotta be up at 4:30 in the morning to get to work.
Yeah.
So it's like, and so I'm just like, okay, well, and then I get tired. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just
I
getting
know we're
old.
talking about our sleep schedules. How old are we?
Everybody is so interested in that.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, oh, okay.
They're like, oh my gosh, turn it off.
So we have lots of stuff we could talk about, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So life has been bizarre.
Mm-hmm. It has.
So I figured we could maybe reminisce a little bit about the past,
Okay.
and then you can talk about anything you want whenever you want,
Okay.
however it sort of goes. Because
Okay.
the whole point of this thing is to like let the guests talk about whatever they want to talk about. It doesn't matter what it is. You know,
Mhm.
just know that it's recorded and you'll pay the price for it if you for whatever you say.
Forever and ever and
I
ever.
know. Well, the internet is forever.
It
So
is. Uh,
so anyways, I know that you dyed your hair today. It looks lovely.
Thank you.
I like the color. I like the cut.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm like, yeah, I was like, you know what? I was getting so much gray. Like I have this weird, like, I actually like it though. I have this weird gray streak that's like right
Yeah.
here. And I always tell Eli that that was him. I'm like, like that was you and your dad. That was Ken and him.
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys did that to me. So, but it's funny because that's the first thing that comes out. Like in about a week or two, it'll be gray again. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Well, have you ever thought about keeping that part?
I want to, but then it's like it's kind of hard for me because I'm not very good at that kind of stuff. Because I've tried that before, where you kind of like put foil around it and then put it up.
Yeah.
So, but then it always ends up getting like when I wash it, it gets So I don't know.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I wonder if putting cholesterol or maybe Vaseline on it would work. I don't know. Some worth a try, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Windex.
When I mean, duh. I don't know why we didn't just
Butter.
go to it off. Butter and Windex should do the trick.
There you go, right there. Mud.
I mean,
Yeah,
and,
just like, a bee sting.
tuna, cheesecake.
The password is.
Oh Lord. So I was recently on my friend's podcast, Strange Familiars, and I talked about like a lot of the creepy stuff that went on back in the day.
Right.
But I didn't go super too far into it because we were already blathering for like 2 hours, and like you can't go into all of it, right?
Oh yeah.
And so I was thinking about it, and like I have so many questions about stuff from back then, about how things happened and like what it was like from your perspective, because I only obviously know it from my perspective. And you and I were talking that one day about some stuff that you remembered that I didn't remember, about how you said we wound up in some driveway.
Yeah.
And no memory of how we even got there.
Yeah, it was really weird. We were driving home from John's house, and we were like, and it was like weird because we were like going down this road, and we were talking, and we were awake, we were coherent. So we were just like, and then all of a sudden we just kind of looked up at the same time, and we were in a driveway. Like, and it was weird because we were on a road. It was really bizarre. And we were like, what the heck? And we were like nowhere where we should have been. It was really weird. I was like, oh, sorry, cats.
That's awesome.
That's Luke. I know he heard that and he's like, ooh, spooky cats.
Your familiar just hopped into the screen.
Exactly. No, that's Lucius. But anyway, yeah, so we were just like, we were in the park, we were in a driveway, and we're just like, where in the heck? I remember that, and then I also remember, like, I told you about this, but this is like one of my weird little stories. I think I've told you about this. Like, I remember driving home one time, like I don't know if I hung out with you or something, or I was somewhere, and I was driving home, and I was going down Frost Road in Streetsboro. I remember looking at the side of the road. This is way before I had Eli. This was like, when I was in my 20s or whatever. But I remember looking over, and like for a split second, I saw a little boy on the side of the road in a t-shirt, like just like curly brown hair. I mean, it looked just like Eli. It was really weird.
Right.
But, and then like, and it was just a split second, and I saw it. I swear I saw it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like the weird thing is it's like, then like when I actually had Eli, and when he was probably like maybe 2 years old or something like that, like it just like popped. This one day I was looking at him, and it was just like that he was a kid, and it's just so
That's
weird.
wild.
It's random, it's like one of those things where like I don't know if it's kind of one of those things that was like foreshadowing like what was going to happen to me in the future. I don't know. But
or maybe
it's like that, it was weird.
So I have this sort of theory that I like to think about is like everybody always thinks about where your spirit goes after you die. But people don't really talk that much. I mean, maybe they do, and I'm just not aware about where your spirit was before you were born.
Right.
Like, I mean, obviously people think, reincarnation and things like that. But like, let's just say, for instance, you don't believe in reincarnation, but you do believe in like a soul.
Right.
So you'd have to ask, well, how is your soul born first, right?
Right.
But let's just assume that your soul is born somehow, somewhere. Right. Where was it before you entered this body? And I like to picture that you're like this little soul baby, and like God or whoever goes, okay, you're up, it's your turn. Right. And this probably sounds so crazy, but like I picture that like everybody's assigned a person, right? Like you got your parents, Eli got you,
right?
I got my parents,
right?
Dirk got
Is it a
me.
predestination kind of thing?
Yeah, like that. And like you kind of like I like to just sort of daydream or whatever. That like little baby Dirk soul was like in heaven and God's like, okay, these are your parents. Are you cool with that?
Exactly. Yeah, I know it's kind of funny.
Like
Yeah,
it's his turn. I'm up. It's my turn. But I mean, obviously that's silly.
Right.
But you don't know where your soul is beforehand, and maybe you saw a little baby Eli before he was born into this world, and
Yeah, I mean, I wonder because I mean, it was so like real, you know what I mean? It seemed like something that had really happened, and it's weird because there's a lot of things like that, like I mean, with Ken, Ken, oh, Kitty.
he keeps getting triggered by things. That's interesting.
I know, but he like it's weird, like it's gonna be a year since my husband passed
I
away.
can't believe that.
Yeah, in February 20th, and it's kind of funny because just like little random weird things have been happening. Like I just I sometimes I'll hear his voice, or I'll, the other day Eli was like, "Mom, why don't we call Dad's phone?" Because I wanted to see, and we called his phone, and it was funny because he said his name, and it was just, it was weird,
Aww.
And then there's a video of him and Eli joking around and stuff, and it's like I got to hear his voice. And the first time I heard that, it was kind of really weird, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I was afraid of butterflies. I think I've told you this.
Yeah.
Afraid of butterflies, and like when I used to walk in this one park, everywhere I walked, there were butterflies, and they'd follow me, and it was really weird. They'd follow me by my feet. It was really bizarre. And like there were times when I would be like, "Is that you, Ken?" And I'd be like, and they would follow me even further. You know what I mean?
Aww.
And then like on the date of his on his birthday, it was his birthday or anniversary. I think it was our anniversary. I went to a place in Twinsburg, and there is this park that's beautiful, and there's like this meadow that you can walk in. There's like 3 different places you can walk, and there's meadow, and I walked in this meadow, and that was the only time I walked in that meadow. I was just kind of like, I was worried about like ticks. So I was like, yeah, I gotta worry about the ticks. So anyway, so I walked in this meadow, and I saw this deer come out, and this deer, seriously, Tara, this deer looked at me, and I looked at the deer, and like we stood there looking at each other for a couple of seconds. Like, I mean, it was like weird. And then the deer just like leisurely strolled away. You know how like deer like run, usually when they he just like literally like, and it was just like, and it was so weird, you know what I mean? And then a bunny just walked in, like hopped in front of me. It was really weird. Like I kind of wonder if like, it's like kind of wonder if that's, him just trying to let us know that he's okay. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like certain things happen. And just like Eli, on Christmas Eve, Eli got into a little bit of a tailspin when he was this first time he drove in the snow, and he spun out, and he said, "Mom," he said, I swear that Dad was watching over me, because he said, I spun out and the truck almost hit me. He said, it should have hit me. And he's like, and it didn't. And he's like, and I swear I felt Dad there. So it's kind of one of those things, you wonder, it's like, I seriously do think that he is watching over us. I really do.
Yeah.
It's it's kind of one of those things.
Yeah, it's one of those things where obviously we'll never know for sure.
Right.
But I kind of like get the feeling, if you like feel comfort from it, then whether or not technically the person's there, you still felt their presence because you got comfort from it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like there's been times since my dad died that I'll just out of nowhere just randomly think about him.
Right.
And you kind of wonder, like, and it's not in reference to anything. Like there's no context to it, And so you just kind of wonder if like maybe,
yeah,
they were there briefly, or, things like that. And like I have dreams about people who have passed a lot, often. And some of them just feel like regular dreams, like it's just a dream and that person just happens to be in the dream. But then other dreams feel different.
Right.
Like there's more to it and stuff. And I'm one of these people that like wants to believe in things. And so, but I'm also like realistic about it, to where it's like, I want that to be the case. Right. But do I really know that that's the case? No.
Yeah.
but there is definitely like a different vibe to certain dreams than other dreams. And even like you said, like you've probably been walking places before and had a butterfly fly by you
Yeah.
and it didn't feel like anything,
Right.
but you know the difference between that.
I knew it was coming. That's why I started to laugh.
Like you know the difference between you just saw a butterfly and it feels like Ken's presence. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I mean, why not? If you even think about it from like this perspective or whatever, like we're all electricity, right? Like our bodies have electricity in them. We're all energy. That energy has to go somewhere,
Right.
So realistically, like you could feel energy in the air, and so who knows,
Yeah,
right?
it's true. I mean, I agree with you. It's strange, but it's it's kind of one of those things where it's like um, yeah, like people and like we talked about before, people grieve differently too. So,
Sure.
I mean, I think that like some people need the reassurance of having the feelings of that people are there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and some people like see things that aren't there just because they need the reassurance.
Right.
But it's like kind of random with me, and it doesn't happen like and it's not happen. It doesn't happen in times when I'm like, oh please, Ken, you know what I mean? I don't just,
Right. It's like a random time where you're
yeah,
not even thinking about it.
right, absolutely, and it'll just be like I'll out of the blue, like all of a sudden something will happen, and I'll be like, and just like even like just the last time Eli and I watched the last Star Wars movie, and we hadn't watched it because we couldn't because it was just it was something that we did with Ken, and we
Right.
watched it, stopped in the middle of it, and like sat there and just like talked about how Ken would be geeking out, you know what I mean? And it was just like,
Aw.
and it felt like he was there because it was just we
Yeah.
talked so deeply about it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Eli was just mentioning today that he wants to get a tattoo and he wants to get the like the symbol like on a heart monitor machine.
Yeah.
He wants to get that,
EKG.
but he wants to get dad put on that because Ken
Aw.
died from a heart attack, so he wants to get that. And I was telling, and I think I told you about this, but I want to get a ghost. I want to get Ken and I used to always joke. We used to always say that when we died, when either of us died, that we would haunt each other, but we'd haunt each other as cartoon ghosts with the sheets and
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
So
Right
I want
on.
to, so I want to get a tattoo of a cartoon ghost going like this, because in every
That
picture,
Yes, every picture he was doing
yeah.
that.
So that's
That would
I
be
want to get a tattoo
fantastic.
like that, like a cartoon ghost going like this. So
You got to do that.
yeah, so that's what because that's just one of the things we used to always joke about. That I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna haunt you, and we're gonna be like, boo,
Classic.
all that stuff. So yeah,
Clanging.
not scary. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, so that's like because originally I was gonna get a brown peanut M&M because when I met Ken, we did that stupid thing where we're like, okay, what celebrity do you look like? And he was
Oh
like,
God.
because he said that some girl told him that she looked like Queen Latifah, and he's like, Shelby, she did not look like Queen Latifah.
Yeah.
So he asked me who I looked like, and I said I look like Queen Latifah. But then I said,
Clearly.
clearly. But then I said, no, I look like Drew Barrymore if she was stung by 1,000 bees.
God.
And then of course he said, well, I look like a brown peanut M&M. So yeah, so I was gonna get a brown peanut M&M going like this, but then I was like, wow. But I liked the ghost idea because
that might look like a turd.
I know, right? Or like one of those raisins like that.
California raisin. Oh man. Random theme.
I know. I don't.
Well,
it
I
was
assume
when
they were popular at the time. Okay, because I'm trying to think.
This wasn't like yesterday.
I know. I'm trying to think when the California raisins were a thing.
Yeah, it was like
I guess it would have been around that time.
86, 87 probably.
Oh God, that's so
right. I know, it's crazy. But yeah, I just thought it was so strange though, because you have the whole group, the whole school was dressed like California raisins. I'm like,
what's happening here?
I was afraid. I was afraid for my life.
Don't be afraid of raisins. Maybe be afraid of people in garbage bags. That's maybe a little odd.
Just slightly.
Because I don't know how that looks like a raisin, but
I don't know, but it was really interesting that I was just like I was confused and yet slightly intrigued by the thought processes. I'm like, what the heck? Where did that come from? But anyway, okay, so away from that now.
Yeah, off topic of that.
From the raisins.
We don't need to dig that hole.
Move away from the raisins.
Yeah. Slowly. Back away.
Slowly back away from the raisins.
So off that topic and back to the spooky stuff.
Okay.
I also talked about, and I'm gonna get your perspective on this.
Okay.
That time another time we were driving home from John's house, and we had this weird lapse of time where we couldn't remember driving through one whole section of the trip, and like normally the trip took like an hour to get from Green to where Kent or whatever,
right,
back home. And we were like, how did we get here already? And then that black thing swooped at the car. It was a California raisin bag. Dude,
it's solved. The riddle is solved. This whole time.
Why?
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a garbage bag. No. I'm crying. I knew this was gonna happen. Okay. And we're back. Oh no. No, it wasn't a garbage bag that flew at the car.
Or a raisin.
Or a raisin. Why? We can never behave ourselves.
I know.
Okay, so anyway, the black thing, like vampire looking thing, swooped at our car. And we couldn't. Why? I maintain my cool here. Okay. So, anyway, we're driving down the road. We lost a big chunk of time. And this weird black cloth swooped at the car. What the hell was it? Behave yourself. Don't say it again.
Yeah. I have no idea.
What was that?
I have no idea.
That was right.
It was so random though, because it was like, it was really, really weird. Because we were freaking out anyway because we didn't know where we had gone, and it was weird because we used to talk, but it was like we were talking about like something not, like non-consequential, something really silly, and just like always per the But anyway,
I'm not gonna say it.
I'm not gonna say it either. But anyway, and then like all of a sudden, we had just noticed that the time had like went really fast, and then it happened. It was just, I don't know. I was twisted. I don't know what happened with that. That was really bizarre.
And Denise was asleep in the back seat. So I'm just like, I mean, I saw it and you saw it, and it was huge. Whatever it was really large.
Yeah.
So I've always been like, what the hell was that? And I mean, just
I'm actually surprised we
maybe
didn't
it was
like
the
have an accident.
Mothman.
Maybe it wasn't Mothman. I don't know.
I mean, we had missing time.
There you go. Hey.
Mothman live in like Canton or wherever we were. I don't remember where we were. Brimfield or something. I don't know.
No, I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea what that was, but that was bizarre. That was really strange.
Yeah.
And we had weird things like that happen, like odd things like that happen. Like that was just one of the really odd things that happened. But yeah, that was really strange.
Well, and even like all of the like Ouija board stuff and like all of that stuff. Like, do you remember how I would just like write pages and pages of stuff? Remember that?
Yeah.
Do like automatic writing stuff, and I would have like all these pages of stuff, and I wish I still had that because I'd be curious to see what all was in there now. But I got rid of all that stuff like when I got out of all of that because I'm like, I shouldn't have these reminders of this stuff. But I've always been curious, like from your perspective, because like I was always too I can't let my guard down enough to allow like, and I didn't want to let my guard down enough to like allow like spirits to talk through me or like, if you remember, like I would never touch the Ouija board. I would ask you guys the questions and then like I wouldn't do it.
Right.
And I'm curious, like from your perspective, like that whole process and like what it felt like for you and like, did it creep you out? Like, what was it?
It's weird because it's like I don't really remember a lot of it because I think I kind of blocked a lot of that stuff out because it's kind of like a weird time, you know what I mean?
Right. Likewise.
It was like creepy and weird, and I remember like like almost feeling almost asleep sometimes with things like that, like you'd kind of like be in the background and like you kind of know what was going on but not know what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things where it's like I don't really remember a lot of it because I just don't, I think after all that stuff was over and we stopped doing that and I stopped, and we put that stuff aside, it was kind of like I forgot a lot of it and I forgot what it felt like. But like I said, I do remember like just like not feeling like myself, you know what I mean? And like afterwards, like after messing with that kind of stuff, I always felt really like disturbed and just kind of like like on edge like for like a day or so afterwards, you know what I mean? Like it was like I shouldn't have been doing that kind of stuff. So
I know like your eyes would completely change. Like you always have this like jovial kind of look to in your eyes, and it would be like depending on who we were talking to, like sometimes you just like had this look of hate is like the only thing that comes to mind because it was such a like razor focus, like I'm looking at you.
Yeah, that's funny because that's not me at all. You know that. That's
not.
Yeah, so it's kind of strange. I mean, like I said, I don't remember.
Flip. Like it would happen. Like 1 second you would be there, and then it would be like gone. Right. And like so, I've always just been sort of because I couldn't do that. Like I'm too in control of. Like I would not allow that, like anything like that. So I was always just curious how, if it was like a switch going, like a knob being turned, like 1 second you're there, 1 second you're not.
Yeah, it was like I said, I like I said, it was kind of like almost like, you're there, but you're not there and you're kind of asleep almost, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I said, it's like I don't remember a lot of it, but I just remember like a little bit of like things that and I just remember always feeling weird afterwards. Like I always felt like, after we messed around with stuff like that, I always felt odd because I mean, you're not supposed to be doing that kind of stuff. So
right.
It's kind of, and it's not supposed to be messed with, so it's kind of like you always kind of feel kind of weird after that kind of stuff. So.
Like, did it ever feel like you weren't alone inside yourself?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
It's
Because
weird.
I
And then
know at that same time, and I know you know this because you knew me before and you knew me after.
right.
Like before we started doing all that stuff, I was pretty goofy and like
Mm-hmm.
pretty happy person.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, it's like I was just mean, like, and couldn't even control it. Like sometimes I would be mean and I would be in my head going, why are you being such an asshole right now? Like,
Right.
but it wasn't like I could control it. It was just like especially with certain people would just trigger it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I couldn't control it. And like again, like in my mind, I'm going, why are you being so mean to this person? But yet I kept doing it. Like I couldn't make myself stop. So it was almost like, I mean, I don't want to say you're possessed or whatever, but like it definitely felt like there was more in your personality than just you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, and it's true.
But
I
yeah,
felt like yeah, it is weird because like yeah, because I know that like um there were times when I was like, I don't know, it was like I could feel like certain things like, like I've always been really good about suppressing stuff, you know what I mean? Like
right.
I have like, bad thoughts in my head all the time, but I'm
Yeah,
but I'm really good about suppressing them. But
right.
there are times like when that stuff went with that stuff, it was like it was almost as though like the suppression kind of like built up and came out in a way, you know what I mean? Like so I don't know if it was like part of me coming out or if it was, you know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Right.
I think
Like things
I
that
don't
you kept locked down, you were
right.
letting out.
Right. I don't know. So I don't know. And I don't know what all that was, but I just know that like I was like I felt a lot better after I stopped doing that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
It's
sure. And
and then
it's and if you even think about everybody in our group at that time,
mm,
like we went from being like really silly, goofy people.
mm,
Really, like I mean, we used to just remember we would just go to like who's pulling up in front of my house. Anyway, sorry, there's a car creeping by, but woo, um, a
this is
ghost
Mothman.
car. No,
Okay.
no, but it was like we went from being these sort of silly, had fun going to like the grocery store and goofing off in the
Oh my
frozen
god.
fruit section and
I
going
know.
to like really dark and not nice people.
I
And then
know.
it like ruined all of our friendship, all of us,
It
because we
really
were
did.
all like, you know, it just really did. It
It really did.
ruined. I mean, you and I didn't talk for a couple years, and
Yeah, we didn't talk for a couple of years. Yeah. And
yeah,
then
and I
like
didn't talk to Denise for a long time,
mm,
and of course, John, that whole thing, and then it just everybody sort of splintered off into these weird, not healthy areas,
mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like when I became a Christian, I did a lot of soul searching, obviously. And that's when I came back to you because I was like, the way things happened and our friendship was more important than whatever.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I literally called all my friends. It was almost like an AA thing where I'm like, I need to make amends to you because I
Right.
was a to you and I didn't treat you right,
Mm.
and took my responsibility, I guess, in the destruction of everything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And
But
I
obviously that's in the past. Everything's good now. We're all friends again. Everything's great, and I have nothing but the absolute best memories
oh,
of
I
those
know.
goofy like trips to Apple grocery store in Kent and like sitting at Country Manor and goofing off and like all that kind of stuff. And but I still have all these questions about like what really happened, like what was really going on.
Yeah.
It was because there's no explanation for a lot of
There
it.
really isn't. I mean, it's kind of one of those things, and it's like, and it just, and it also goes down to the fact that we were like naive, and we were like,
For
in our
sure.
early 20s, teenagers, and I think that whatever you, whenever you delve into stuff like that, I think it's more open to kids that are like kind of trying to learn themselves and things like that. And
Right.
trying to find, So I think that regardless of the way you feel about it and what you feel, you know, it is all about, it's still it kind of preys on, you know, the youth and, you know, the
Yeah.
ignorance of youth, you know what I mean? So
And insecure people, like people who already
right.
felt sort of out of, I mean, we were definitely out of the norm.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
in the 80s in rural Ohio, I mean, we
I
got
know.
threatened to have our asses beat constantly.
I know.
Um,
Remember the police? Remember all the police that used? Remember that time
pulled
we were
over.
going to that place and we are going to a photon and that those cops pulled us over and they're like, "You're not going where, you know, you're not going to get
Yeah.
there."
And that was a regular occurrence that happened to us all the time. And then, you know, the rednecks here and there, and just it was you're already kind of angry at the world because you don't fit in, and then you throw in that and then get involved in things that potentially can lead you down dark paths. So it's like, obviously in retrospect, I would have not done 98% of the shit that we did. But
Absolutely.
by the same token, I have a perspective now that I don't think I would have had. Like I know where I was and where I went after that. And so
Mhm.
I could never deny the experience of what got me from point A to point B, kind
Absolutely.
of thing. Whereas if that hadn't happened, you can sort of like it maybe doesn't mean as much to you or something. But I mean, I find it all fascinating, but like I still won't speak any of those names out loud. You know, the people that we talked
Yeah.
to, I
Hmm.
won't say their names out loud because I don't know what they were.
Yeah, because I don't. I honestly don't know either, and it's kind of. It is
Yeah.
weird.
And
I
like I never want that stuff around or
yeah,
whatever.
because you know, I told you, like, you know, Eli. We the other day it was weird. Like I told you what happened the other day. Like I was sleeping and I woke up. It was it on New Year's? I think it was on New Year's. And I woke up at like 12:03 or something like that on New Year's because of course I fall asleep because I don't sleep,
Right.
you know, whatever. So, and I swear, okay, we live upstairs. We have an upstairs apartment, and we have a door downstairs. We live in an old farmhouse, and it's like we live the upstairs.
That's
So
cool.
we have a door downstairs, and then we have to go up the stairs. So you lock the door downstairs, and then you lock the door upstairs. So I woke up at like, and Eli wasn't home yet because he was at his girlfriend's house, and um, but I woke up at like, and he was gonna stay there until the new year was over. And I woke up at like 12:03 or something like that because I heard somebody knocking on our door, like on the door that's up here. I heard him
Yeah.
knock twice, like twice, and then stop and then knock twice again. So I woke up and I walked out and I looked at the, you know, looked out and the like window and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know, and I'm like kind of creeped out by it. And I sat there in my room, waited for Eli to get home. But it was weird because Eli was like, "Mom, you didn't open the door, did you?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Because you know they say that if a spirit knocks and you don't, if you open the door, you're welcome into the house." You know what I mean? So that kind of creeped me out. But then I was like, you know, so I was weirded out by that. But then I was like, okay, well maybe because you know, because after that I was able to sleep and I didn't have any problems after that. So I was like, maybe that was just Ken saying, you know, happy.
Maybe.
I
Happy New
don't know.
Year.
But it was really weird. It might have been in my dream. I don't know. But it was just a really weird thing because nothing like that has happened in a while. So it was just kind of weird. It was just like I said, but I heard it like it woke me up. Like the
Right.
night woke me up. So I, like I said, I don't know if it was in my dream, but it was weird because when I woke up, I heard the knocks twice, and then I woke up and I heard them twice again. So it's
Right.
like, you know what I mean? So it was like, and then, like I said, I walked to the door and I looked out the door. Like I didn't open the door, but I looked out the little window thing and I was just like, and there was nobody there, of course, because nobody would have been able to get up the stairs. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, but it was just one of those things. And so it was just kind of creepy. And then when Eli said that, I'm like, thanks, Eli, you know, I'm like, I'm already creeped out by it. But then you're like, you know, you welcome in the spirits. I'm like,
Yeah.
but yeah, but see, yeah, it's kind of one of those things where you kind of like, you know, I don't know. And
So did weird stuff like that happen to you back then? Like, did you ever have weird things go on like that? Because I did.
Yeah,
A
I
lot.
did too. Yeah, it was weird. There were certain things that would happen, like just like little weird random things, like things missing, like you things would be missing, and then like you would look somewhere like for something like three times and like three four times and it wouldn't be there, and then like you'd go back there again and there would be, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like weird things like that, and just like little like just like weird things, and like the feeling, Ken used to always talk about that too, like when you get like that chill that goes up your spine, and he used to say that was the hand of death. He said that was always like death, like
Ugh.
and it used to always creep me out, and like still just the other day it was really weird. I got that tingle that goes up from your feet all the way up to your neck,
Yeah.
yeah, he's saying, and it's just weird thinking about it, but yeah, and that kind of stuff would happen. And there was like I told you about that time that I went to like this is when I was a like a teenager or whatever, but I was at my grandma's house, and I walked into and everybody was out in the garage, and walked into the living room of my grandma's house, and this guy that lived next door to us had just passed away, and he wasn't a very good guy, and you know the whole backstory behind this,
Yeah.
but I swear I didn't know that he passed away, but I swear I walked into the living room, and this guy lived like where we live. My grandma lived in Ashtabula, so this was like not anywhere where he'd be. And I walked in, and I swear I saw him sitting on the chair. And then
Ugh.
like I went back outside, and I was freaking out. Like I seriously was freaking out. My mom, and my dad had to calm me down because I was so freaked out. So then like the next week, I found out the guy had died. So I mean, it's strange, It's kind of
Yeah.
like it's like where you like trying to terrorize me again, even in your best,
Right.
like it's
Right.
kind of one of those things. So yeah, I don't know. It's just strange.
Well, and like I can remember finding notes, um and like I would get out of the shower and on the mirror it would say like hi in the
Yeah, I remember you
fog.
telling me about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the most painfully obvious one was, you remember Caleb was staying at my house for like,
Mhm.
he lived with me for a long time.
Right.
And we used to always stay up and watch TV and stuff, and then always went to bed in the morning. Well, he was out in the family room still watching TV, and I'm like, I'm going to bed. So I went into my bedroom, and I was laying on the bed with my face to the wall. So my back was to the room.
Mhm.
And I felt the bed go down like he got in.
Mhm.
And I mean, I was still awake. I had just gone in there. And
Right.
I felt the bed go down, and I rolled over expecting him to be there, and
Mhm.
he was not there. And I'm like, all right, I'm out of here. I got up
Yeah.
and went back out into the family room. But like, just weird, random stuff like that, you know?
Mhm. Well,
But
like it says, when you open yourself up to that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? It kind of like
yeah,
I totally believe that. I mean, if you don't, even if you don't believe, if you open yourself up to any kind of negativity at all, it will open itself up to you. You know what I mean? I mean,
yeah,
I totally believe that. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's like spirit or just like, just
right.
negative energy or anything, but, um, like it's weird because, like at our old house, like there are weird things that happen at our old house, just like weird little like shadows and things like that. I haven't had anything happen here. This house is like we're like we don't have any problem, but that old house was like kind of there was a lot of tragedies in that old house. People like
Really.
yeah, the like gentleman that lived there, he died in the driveway. He got smacked and hit with a car, hit by his car. He was fixing his car, and his car fell on him
Oh my
in the
gosh.
driveway. And then that was like the whole yeah, I don't want to say any names, but we
Right.
went to school with some of them, and yeah, so it was kind of one of those things where yeah, so there was a lot of weird things, and there was some random stuff that would happen like that. And I swear a couple times I heard Ken, like this is before when Ken was still alive, but like I'd like be somewhere, and Ken would be in at dialysis or something, and I'd hear him say something, you know what I mean, and I'd be like, and he wouldn't be there, so it's kind of
Yeah.
weird. But and
That's
Eli said even here though, but Eli has said that he's heard Ken's voice here. Like he said he's heard Ken's voice say Bud, and call him, say his name, or say something. He's heard him. So well, which I believe too. I mean,
yeah.
but and that's not negative. Here it's not negative. You know what I mean? It doesn't
Right.
here because
Different vibe.
right. Because when we moved here, we moved here right after Ken passed, and we had already put the money down and stuff for this place when Ken had passed. So we picked this out together. Ken and Eli and I picked it out together, and then we moved in. It was like, it was like a whole new chapter, but at the same time he was here because he had helped us pick it out, you know what I mean? And he had
Yeah.
been here a couple times, but we hadn't completely moved when he passed. So it's kind of one of those things where, you kind of like, he's still here. It's just um it was a little bit easier to be away from that place, you know what I mean? Because that's, and then that was another thing when I used to go back to that house, and but because he basically died in that house, you know what I mean? Like in the living room right by the door. That's where he departed from. And that's where they came in and they tried to they revived him and everything like that right there. And so every time I'd go back there after that, I'd have little panic attacks because
Yeah.
because that's I equate that, and yeah, so it's kind of one of those things where yeah. So I mean, the best thing that happened was to move here.
Yeah, the timing of that actually was pretty perfect because you'd already had the place set up,
Right.
and
And I would never have been able to do that if it wasn't for you and everybody that helped me with like, when he passed.
that was
Like,
overwhelming. It's like I knew I needed to do something, but I knew that the amount of money I could give you really wouldn't amount to anything but maybe some groceries,
right.
for a week or something. And I'm like,
Right.
that's not enough. Like, it's just not enough.
Right.
And I was completely blown away by how generous everybody was.
It
Like,
is like you feel unworthy, you know what I mean? You totally do because it's just like people were so fantastic. I
it
mean, it
was
was
like
like
magic.
I just had people like, just like, it wasn't even just the money. It was just like the thoughts and the
Yeah.
prayers and love that people sent to me. You know what I mean? Just like, people just randomly like, just, letting me know they cared about me. You know what I mean? People that I
Yeah.
hadn't talked to in years. And, oh, you're always such a sweet person and we feel so bad for you, and it's like, and that means so much, it meant so
Yeah.
much at the time because I was so broken at that time.
Yeah.
And it was like, and then I didn't know we were at a point where we didn't know if we were going to be able to move because we didn't have the money. We
Right.
didn't know what we were going to do. We had no idea what we were going to do. So everybody was so, just like it was just like amazing. I have never ever
Yeah.
thought that anything like that could ever happened. It was
But it
just
was nice because then you didn't have to panic and scramble about money. You could put that out of your mind for a while so that
right,
you could just focus on getting through what you had to get through
right. And then
immediately.
it was like with COVID, then when COVID happened, and then that started like major, and like so that was like so that was like even better because that way I didn't have to worry about that either. You know what I mean? But I was still working, and and it was just a lot all at once, and it was pretty crazy. But like I
Yeah.
said, if it wasn't for that situation, then I probably wouldn't have gotten through the way I got through. It's amazing to think. It seems like it's been a lot longer than a year, but it also seems like it's been like a lot less
I
than a year.
know.
I mean,
It is weird. Yeah,
yeah.
you're right. Like
But I still in
it's
my head, I still think he's gonna come home. I still in my head,
yeah.
I'm like, someday he's just gonna knock on the door and he's gonna be there. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Yeah,
yeah, but I mean, I know that's not gonna happen, but
right.
and it seems like I just saw him yesterday. You know what I
Right.
mean? And if I
Well,
did
even
see him
with my
again,
dad, like every
yeah.
once in a while, I'll be like, "Oh, I got to call my," because I didn't talk to my dad a ton.
Oh yeah.
I would touch base with them, like every few weeks or whatever. And which now in retrospect, I'm like, that's not that much, but
Right.
we just didn't have that relationship of constantly being on the
Right. Yeah. But you guys knew each other. You cared about each other,
phone.
so that's
Right.
all.
But every once in a while, Dirk, stop. You're knocking on. Every, every once in a while, I'll just be like, I'll get this vibe like, oh yeah, I got to call my dad, and then I'm like, oh, he's not there, you
Yeah.
know? It's weird. And I think especially because I wasn't around him all the time.
Right.
So it's like if someone's like a daily part of your life, when they're not there, it's like painfully obvious,
Right.
you
Right.
know? But
Right.
when you don't see somebody that often, it's like, oh yeah, they're still, oh wait, no, they're not, I mean, that even still happens to me with like like Peter from Type O. I'm
Mm.
like, oh yeah, they're kind. oh yeah, he's gone. And that's
Mm-hmm.
been like over 10 years or something.
Yeah,
It's
it's weird. Like I do that with your dad too. It's weird because like I used to see your dad at stores all the time. Like I used
yeah,
to see your dad at like Save a Lot all the time, and I used to see
yeah,
him at like Walmart every once in a while and stuff like
yeah.
that. And like the one day I was walking and I saw like I was walking into a store and I saw a guy that like had your dad's build and I saw him from
Oh,
behind. And I thought I was like, oh my gosh, there's Tara's dad. And I was like, no, that's not Tara's dad. You know what I mean? It was just weird. You know what I mean? Because it's like like every once in a while I get this weird like feeling that I'm gonna see him. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I'm
yeah,
gonna see him. Like, maybe I'll see Tara's dad, and I'll be like, you know what I mean? It's like weird
yeah.
because
It's weird.
your dad was always like super duper nice to me. So I mean, he was
Yeah,
always
he
around.
he really loved you, and he really liked Ken a lot. Like, um, he wouldn't have wasted words saying that
Right.
because you know
No,
how
I
my
know.
kid was. And he always was be like, "Oh, I saw Shelby and her husband," and he always had nothing but nice things to say and
Yeah.
whatever. But
Yeah, like I
yeah,
said,
it's just a weird thing. Like, it's hard to wrap your mind around. Like, how is that person just like physically not here? Like,
mhm.
you
That's
know,
strange.
it is.
It is.
It's really,
It's weird. And it's like Ken was like, he was 52, you know what I mean? Or he wasn't
that's
even
so
50,
young.
51, and he would have been 52 in May. And it was just like, but he, and it's weird. I don't know if I think I told you about this. I can't remember. But I was like on my phone every once in a while it says 2 years ago, this is what happened, or this is pictures are from
Yeah.
a year. And there was a year ago picture and I was looking at it and it was Ken. And I looked at the picture and I'm like, man, he looked old. You know what I mean? It's weird because
He was
you don't
sick
think
for a
about
long
it.
time.
Yeah, and you don't think about it because you see him every day and you don't think about it. And I was like, and he always looked so young. He always looked younger than what he was, you know what I mean? And then, in like this picture was taken like a couple months before he died. So it was kind of like, um it kind of just makes you, wonder that, it was time, you know what I mean? Because he was
His
so,
body just was tired.
yeah, he just couldn't, and even his doctors were just like, you know what, he's been so depressed because he couldn't get a kidney and just, it was just one of those things where, it just got to a point where he just couldn't anymore. And that's why it was like, people are always asking me, I ended up having to take him off life support. And people always ask me, they're like, was that hard for you? And the funny thing is at the time it wasn't hard for me at all um because I know that's what he would have wanted, and because I focused on what he would have wanted and not what was going to happen afterwards. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like afterwards, I was like, devastated. But as it was going on, I knew he wouldn't want to live like that, and I
Right.
thought only of him and what he would have wanted. So therefore, I was like, you know what? No, it wasn't hard for me at that point. Afterwards, it was hard for me because I felt
Right.
guilty. I felt all kinds of feelings afterwards. But as
Right.
it was, no, because I knew what he would have wanted, and that's what I focused on. So it's just kind of one of those things, and that's like the whole thing too about like like supernatural and all that stuff, and like where the people go and what happens to spirits, and I kind of and I kind of want to hope that like there's like some kind of reincarnation because especially for him because he was so young and he was such a good person. He was such a good person, and I'd hate to think that that's the only thing that he ever had. You know what I mean? Like he had a sick body
Yeah.
and a bad heart, and he had such a good heart, but it was a weak one.
Yeah.
So I hope
Well,
that he's reincarnated, and
yeah. I mean, even if if that's not a thing, I don't
right.
know. But wherever he is, he's not sick.
Oh,
You know
absolutely.
what I mean? Like, he's 100% like not sick, and I can't imagine how awful he probably felt all
Oh,
the
I
time.
know.
And his body fought for a long time because I mean, think of all the heart attacks he had. He had like strokes,
Mm,
multiples,
mm,
and his kidneys were gone. And the fact that
yeah.
he lived as long as he did with all of that against him.
I know. And see, that's what was, people are always like, too, that's another reason why it was so funny because people were like, well, you kind of knew he was sick and stuff like that. But you have to realize, too, that every time he came out of it, he came out of it every
Right.
time. So
Every
he
time
had
he
kind of
probably thought this is it.
yeah. Like, I mean, exactly, because I mean, every time he'd been in the hospital, I'd text you and I'd be like, Tara, he's in the hospital again. And I'd be
Yeah,
like, and I'd
almost
get
like
upset.
the boy who cried wolf.
I know, exactly. I'd be like, he's had one foot in the banana peel and one foot in the grave so many times, you know what I mean? And then like, and that's what the weird thing was is when this happened, it was like so different, you know what I mean? And I knew at that point, like when it happened, I knew it was over because
Yeah.
it was just so, because every
Oh,
night, and the funny thing is too, is it's like, he was out in the living room and I was sleeping. I had actually slept in Eli's bed, and Eli was sleeping on the couch for some reason. I was sleeping in Eli's bed, and he came into the room and he was like, "Honey, I called the ambulance because I'm having chest pains," and that was a normal occurrence for us. You know what I
right.
mean?
Like every other week.
Like every like month at least,
Yeah.
he'd be
Oh,
going to
here's
like
his monthly visit to the hospital.
exactly, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
okay. And he's like, so, I was like, well, I'll get up with you, so because he's like, I'm gonna call the ambulance, and I was like, okay, I'll get up with you. So I got up with him, and and it was funny because I got up and like. I kicked to get up because I have like short legs and it was hard for me to get. So I was like kicked to get up and he was like, "You're so cute." And that's like one of the last things I remember him saying to me.
Aww.
But then like we came out in the living room and it was just like normal, just like, he was getting ready to go and just walked over to the door and just fell over. And that was, and he had this really scared look on his face. And
Like
that's,
he knew this was not the good
yeah,
one.
he
Yeah.
knew. Yeah, he totally knew. But, and then that was it. And then, and Eli woke up because I was screaming and I didn't know what to
Oh,
do because it was so different, but it's kind of one of those things, and it's like, and then you wonder too, it's like, okay, so when he for 4 days, he was in like, he was in a vegetative state for 4 days. And you wonder what was happening with him then. You know what I mean?
right.
Like I wonder if he was there, if he saw us talking. So I sat there and I read to him, what was I reading to him? Lord of the Flies, because Eli had read Lord of the Flies, and Ken was like, "Oh my gosh," she's like, "I read that book when I was a kid, and I want to read it again." So I brought that to the hospital with me, and I was reading him Lord of the Flies when as I was sitting there listening, when as he was convalescing or whatever was going
Yeah.
on, and uh, and I was like, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, did he hear that? Did he know? And right before when they finally took him off life support, right before um, I was in there alone with him, and I played our song for him, and I just held his hand and told him I loved him, and I
Oh.
kind of wonder, I'm like, did he hear that? Did he know? You know what I mean? And I think he did. I mean, I hope he did.
Even
Um,
if he wasn't in his body,
right.
I believe he was in the room. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. It's kind of one of those things because my dad. This is kind of an interesting story. I don't know if I ever told you this one. My grandfather lost like right before he passed. My dad's dad. He he had a leg taken off because he had a blood clot. Well, I guess he died and was brought back. Like he had a heart attack and was brought back. But he said that like I guess my dad came into the room, was talking to him like after that happened, and he's like, he told my dad that he was above himself watching everything going on.
a
And
lot of people say that.
he said he was walking and he said he had two legs, like because was missing a leg, so
Yeah.
weird. So, you kind of wonder, and I wonder if that was, I wonder if he was there. And then Ken's best friend came from Chicago to say goodbye to him. And, and we were talking about Ken and reminiscing and like, and smiling and laughing and joking around about, cause, Ken would have loved that,
Yeah.
that's how Ken was. He was, that kind of person. So you kind of wonder too. I was kind of hoping he was there to see that, to see his best friend for one more time, so
Yeah.
it's just kind of, it's kind of one of those things, and just like I don't know, it's kind of just one of those things where you kind of wonder. There's so many unanswered questions, and there's no
Of
way to ever
course.
find out until
Yeah.
like until we pass away, like later on in life. We probably I don't even know if that's gonna we're gonna know everything then, but and I hope, like I told him too, he had a sister like Ken, Ken had autistic siblings. He had an autistic brother, autistic sister, and his sister died a few years before him of a heart attack. But
Mhm.
he used to always tell me the story that when he was little, he would take his sister. They would go in their pajamas, and he would take her in the mornings when before his mom and grandpa and stuff woke up. They would go and play in the park, and his parents would get all mad at him and stuff like that because they would be wearing their pajamas and everything.
Right.
And like when he passed, I was like, go play with Crystal, because Crystal was his sister, and that's like kind of one of those things too. Like I'm like kind of thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, well maybe that's what's going happens too. Like maybe you go back to one of your favorite memories. He said that was one of his favorite memories of playing in the park with his sister, like a little
Yeah.
roly-poly Ken playing, like in those little pajamas with his sister,
Yeah.
and like I'm hoping, I really hope that's what he's doing, and that's where he was when all this was going on, when his body was
Right.
on him, what
Like
I mean?
unaware of any of the
Right.
trauma.
I really hope, because even the nurse, his hospice nurse told me, he's like, he can still feel pain. And I was like, I mean,
Thanks for telling me.
I know. Gee, because I know. I'm like, thanks a lot. I really appreciate that. And that was another reason why I was like, okay, well, just we have to do something about it because I don't want him to feel pain, And but yeah, it's just and you kind of
Like
wonder.
his body was still there,
Mhm.
functioning, but his soul was elsewhere.
He was gone. Yeah, he was gone. Well, it's funny, I know I've told you 100 times. Ken was so ticklish. Like I mean, you could not even touch him without him, like
Yeah.
flinching. And it was, and when they came in to do his neuro check, and they did his foot, they kind of took something and went up his foot, and he
Yeah.
didn't move. He didn't like flinch or nothing. Like I knew he was gone. I mean,
Right.
he wasn't there anymore. So, yeah. So it's just kind of one of those things. But I don't know. But yeah, just like with the whole supernatural thing and all that stuff, you kind of wonder. It's just really interesting to think about that kind of stuff. Just
Yeah, sure.
I hope that I mean, I know he's at peace,
Yeah.
now. I know that the best thing that could have happened was this happened before this whole COVID thing happened, because it would have
I
been,
know. That would have been brutal for somebody with all his health.
oh, I
Maybe
know.
he was saved from that. You know what
I
I
know,
mean?
that's what I'm wondering, because, but then in another aspect, this is actually kind of funny too. Just goes to show you, like Ken, like the way I feel about Ken, he would have loved it in a way too, with the masks and everything like that. He would he would have loved that whole like movie kind of thing,
Yeah.
like where everybody like walking around like with masks on and stuff like that.
Right.
Like post-apocalyptic kind of
Right.
stuff. He would have loved that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like, I mean, I know that it's best that he wasn't here for it, but at the same time,
Right.
he would really he
Yeah.
really would have liked all that stuff.
Like Blade Runner.
Oh, I know. He would have loved all that stuff.
It's funny because after my dad died, I had this dream about him. There's like craziness going on outside over here, but I don't know if you can hear these crazy noises, but anyway, after my dad died, I had this dream about him where he, my dad had his big belly. You remember I used to always tease him, like, when do the twins do and all that stuff?
Oh, in there, you were like, oh,
he used to get so sister. So in this dream, my dad was like in his like probably in his 30s, and he was like physically fit, like he looked like he would have looked like without his belly, and he was like really happy and like light, and like how my dad was, like he was grouchy and like he could be real silly sometimes. Generally speaking, he was very grouchy and pissed off at the world for some bizarre reason that I don't know. But in the dream, he was very light and like that silly person. And I remember him saying, like, either he said it or it was implied, like, this is me without all of the garbage of life. And I think that's the kind of like what happens to us. Like, all of the things, the insecurities, the health stuff, everything that was like done to you to cause all of your trauma and like taint who your personality really, who you really are, because you're so filled with garbage from outside stuff, and then your own brain creates garbage, and I think all of that goes away, and I think you become who you were supposed to be without all of that, That's
I
what I
mean,
heard
it's
anyway.
with your body's like kind of like, you know, it's like once like with him,
Cumbersome.
yeah, and just like with your dad and with Ken, you know, it's like their bodies like basically just, you know, gave out pretty much,
Yeah.
and it didn't mean that they're, you know, and Ken honestly because of the dialysis and things like that, his mind was like, he was always so smart, you know, he was really
Right.
an intelligent person, and he would forget things, and his mind he has like it like computer brain, you know, even anything
Right.
that normally would be really easy to do for him, he just was, it was gone, you know, because when nobody understands that, like when that kind of stuff happens to you, I mean basically dialysis is just basically the blood being taken out of your body, getting clean, and then put back in your body. So like the oxygenation and all that stuff, you know, it like messes with your brain, and you know, so I mean, and they call it dialysis brain or whatever because a lot of
Yeah.
times they forget things and their personalities change, and his personality did change, and he did have his depression and things like that, which is totally understandable.
Completely.
Um,
I
but
mean,
yeah,
when you feel like so sick all the time, it's kind of hard to be upbeat and optimistic. You know what I
oh,
mean?
absolutely.
And I'm sure he just was riddled with anxiety constantly.
Oh yeah, he totally was, because and he would say, he would get into little moods where he was like, you know, he was like, you know, you guys would be better without me, and I'm just a, you know, I'm just a hindrance to you, and you know, all that stuff, and he would get like really depressed at times, and you know, and things like
Worse.
that.
Yeah.
But you know, that's the whole thing about him though, even though he had that, he still had this, you know, life about him, you know what I mean, like even when he was sick, he still had this like, you know, love of like life, and he loved me, and he loved Eli, and he loved, you know, he loved his family, and it was kind of one of those things where, you know, he just had this exuberance about him, you know, that you know, made him him. And I don't know, it's crazy, and like I hope that that's what's still left of him, you know what I mean, I hope that's what, you know, where
I
he
think
is.
that's who he is now. You
Right.
know, all those things that are unencumbered by negativity. You know,
Hmm. Right.
the fun part of you, the loving and deep and artistic and etc. parts of you that are like good. You know, creative and positive and all that good stuff.
Guess only knows what I would be. I'd be like just like a big old lump of like some big
Sunshine,
emoji happy faces and crap.
sunshine coming out your ass.
As well, yeah, as well it should be. Just shooting sunshine out my ass. Because you know that's what I do.
Well, yeah, duh. I
Just,
mean,
yeah.
I've seen pictures of it.
That's my credo. Credo?
So I'm really concerned that we're going to get raked over the coals for this whole raisin conversation earlier.
We probably will.
It was not meant in any
No,
way negative towards anything.
absolutely not. 100%.
Literally just bizarre that people were in garbage bags
It was
dressed
crazy.
like
It was crazy.
raisins.
It was absolutely crazy. And like I said, it was not meant in any way, because you know me. So I mean, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Remember what we talked about? Remember what you mentioned before?
Yes. I'm like, and literally that's where we
Yeah, that's
go.
where it went. But it wasn't meant that way at all.
It
And
was
anybody
not.
anybody who knows me knows that, you know, or knows us knows that that's not how it was meant. But
Yeah. Yeah. Like literally just weird and random that people are just like raisins.
exactly. And it's just bizarre. It was just a bizarre situation. But
Okay, so I guess that was our disclaimer.
disclaimer.
Sad that we need one. So
Right.
on to funner, happier stuff.
Okay.
So you actually, before Ken passed away and continued after, really made some huge lifestyle changes and basically took your own health and life back.
Right.
So how has that been like mentally, you know, sort of explain how where you were and like where it all, like how it's affected you from your childhood on, and
Okay.
then how it's affected you. Do you still have to like mentally check yourself? Like, do you have like dysmorphia? Do you have PTSD?
Yeah, it's crazy because it's like, well, okay, like basically, 2 years ago, I was 479 pounds, and I couldn't stand for longer than 15 minutes at a time. I couldn't do dishes. I couldn't do anything. I was like, just like sick all the time, just felt terrible all the time. Couldn't, I mean, just couldn't basically do anything, was unhappy. Basically was in a prison of my own making, basically.
And
I
do
was
you
depressed.
think that that was a result of dealing with all the stress of like Ken's health and
Absolutely.
past
Hmm.
things?
Absolutely, 100%. It was just, it was just me, and like I think I tend to, even now I tend to push people away from me. You know what I mean? And like
Like build a wall around yourself.
the easiest way for me to push people away was to get bigger and bigger, because nobody's gonna even like deal with a fat person. You know what I mean? They're just gonna be like, she's fatty. Get away. Kind of one of those things. And so basically, I was at a point where I was just like, I can't live like this anymore. I woke up one day and I was just like, I can't breathe. I can't move. I can't do anything. I can't even go outside. I can't even walk down the street. I can't do anything. So finally, I was just like, I'm gonna, and I went to the doctor because I had these masses on my legs, these lymphedema masses, which big masses on my legs, like fatty deposits on my legs. And I talked to the doctor, and he's like, listen, he's like, I can't do anything for you until you decide to lose weight. I can't do anything. He's like, I'd like to help you. He's like, you're a great person and things like that, but we can't do anything. You have to lose weight. And finally, it finally hit me. It's been like my
Yeah.
whole life. I've been heavy my whole life. I mean, I've been like, when I was in like middle school, I mean, I was like over 200 pounds when I was in middle school. You know what I mean? So like, and I was like, close to 300 pounds in high school. You know what I mean? So it was just, my whole life I've been like that. So it was actually, it probably was over 300 pounds in high school. I don't even know, but anyway, yeah. So it's always been like that, and so finally, I just decided, I'm like, I'm gonna start, with me, it was weird. It was like, I wanted to start exercising and things like that, but I couldn't exercise because I was so big that I was, and everything was so, I just couldn't do anything. So I went online and I found this morbidly obese like chair like exercises, and it was weird because they're like, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to work on this stuff so you can start exercising. Like, you work on this, and then as you get better and better, you'll be able to walk, you'll be able to do stuff. And it worked for me. And then I started walking, and I started just walking around our neighborhood. And then I started, and then just walking 2 miles, walking 3 miles. And, I got to a point where I was like, I'm just like, recently I walked 5, 6 miles, no problem. You know what I mean? And it was at a point where I couldn't even walk like from a parking lot to a store without being like, like freaking out, not being able to breathe. It was
Yeah.
terrible. And then
Oh,
like,
that's
so then,
scary.
yeah, so then I lost, like, on my own, I lost 150 pounds on my own, just with eating the exact same thing every day. I ate like, I had to break my food addiction, because for me, food's always like, been, it's been there for me. You know what I
A
mean?
teddy bear. It's like a teddy bear.
It is. It's like
A
something that's
blanket.
always there. But then the funny thing is when Ken passed, it was like I went back to it. I started eating bad stuff again, and the sad thing is it's not even, it doesn't even comfort me anymore. But I still find myself going back to that. Like
It's
like you said
habit.
before, it's like a dog returning to its vomit. That's like your thing.
Yeah.
Dog. Basically, like you feel so, it's just something that you feel like that it's going to help you. And even if it doesn't help you, it's like it's such a normal reaction that you just keep doing it. So anyway, so then I lost that weight, and then I went ahead and had the sleeve surgery, and then I lost, so altogether I lost about 250 pounds altogether. So I lost a fat person. And the sad thing is, the funny thing is I'm still a fat person, which is like, and that's the sad thing. And I'd like to lose more weight, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm happy now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I can get around, I can do things. I mean, I'm not, like, I mean, I'd like to lose more weight, but if I don't lose more weight, I'm okay. You know what I mean? It's like, I just want to be healthy. And I can get around, I can do the things I want to do now. I mean, I've never really considered seeing myself as a small person, never really thought of myself, getting to a point where I'd be a thin person, you know what I mean? But I'm actually in a size like now that I've never worn my whole life. I'm in a size smaller that I've never been in these sizes. So it's just bizarre. But in it, of course, I still look at myself and I think I'm huge. And like Ken and Eli, even Eli, poor Eli, I'm always like, is that person bigger than me? Or am I bigger than that person? And he's like, Mom, you're so much smaller than that person. And you think of it all the time. And I remember looking at my shadow too. Like even when you're walking and you look at your shadow and you're like, and I mean, and the one day I just realized I'm like, well, my shadow does look smaller. For the longest time you think you're the size of your shadow. You know what I mean? Your shadow size
Right.
bigger, and then I look and recently I looked at my shadow. I'm like, wow, it is smaller, but it's just weird. You know what I mean? But you still think, like, I still look at myself and I'm just like, I still feel like I'm huge. I mean, I am big, but I'm not like, like it's just bizarre, and then but then you look at pictures like of me like when I was 500 pounds, and then look at pictures now and it's like completely different. And I mean, it's just bizarre, but you still see yourself as being huge. You know what I mean? Like regardless, I'm always gonna see myself as being big. So
Well, and I have the exact same thing, like from as far back as I can remember. Like there's never been a time in my life that I did not feel guilty about eating.
right,
And I mean, even as like a little kid, like kindergarten, I can remember having thoughts of like, because I'm not going to name names, but my best friend in kindergarten was like one of those kids that's real skinny. And I was just like a normal size kid. Like I wasn't fat or anything, but just, you have that baby chub.
right.
And I can remember she had a little boyfriend in kindergarten. And I remember sitting on the carpet listening, as the teacher was reading us a book and looking at her and her boyfriend and thinking, I'm never going to have a boyfriend because I'm not skinny like her. Now, I
Mhm.
don't know where that came from. I don't know who planted that into my brain at 5 years old,
Mhm.
but that was my perception then. And it carried through my entire life up until right the second of the day. It's
Right.
the same mentality I've had my entire life. And like you said, like I'm constantly aware where I stand on the size meter in every room that I am.
Right.
You're
Mhm.
always
Oh, yeah.
like, okay, I'm the fattest person in this room, or I'm not the fattest person in this room.
Absolutely.
And like, it's, I can't properly judge myself because in my head, I'm always the fattest person in the room.
Right. Mhm.
And it doesn't matter if people tell you, like, you don't look overweight. Yeah, first of all, then you're blind. But secondly,
Mhm. I know, right?
you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what delusional land you're from, but it's just like it constantly gets reinforced. So even if you have a day where you feel good, you're like, I feel pretty okay today. Like,
Mhm.
I'm all right. I look all right today.
Yeah, I agree.
Somebody
Yeah.
will say something, or you'll see something, or like for instance, I turned all the comments off on my videos
Mhm.
because last week some person commented on a video, you need to lay off the munchies and lose weight. Now, I know that people are dicks. Like that's the internet. But
Mhm.
it's like funny how they know that one trigger. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, I'm not here to be abused by people. And so I'm just like, I'm just going to turn off all the comments. That way I don't have to worry about it. So I'm not going to get 100 nice comments and one bad comment that takes away all the 100 nice comments.
Right.
And like,
Absolutely.
even at the, like, it's one of those things. And I know you know this, but it's like, it's held me back like from everything my entire life. Like afraid to go out for the baseball team because I don't want to be the fat girl on the baseball team. Don't try out for majorette at high school even though I'm the best baton twirler they would have
Mhm.
because I don't want to be the fat girl in the band. Don't like tell anybody that you like them because they're not going to like you because you're the fat girl. Even in music, like, it's like people, whether they want to or not, judge you on that scale. And like, I can remember we went to the very first Project Festival. We're there, paid to be there, and played our show. And I remember walking into the crowd and somebody yelling, "Lose weight," at me. And I'm just like, so it's like, people can tell you like, oh, it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what you look like. It does matter what you look like. People will always remind you that you're not what you're supposed to be. And it's like, you know, that's why, like, I'm so completely proud of you, because I know personally how hard this is. And I used to get really sad because you were always this like cheery, happy, love to go out, meet new people. Like, you were our ambassador. We used to send you off. We'd see a cute boy and we'd say, "Shelby, go talk to them, pull them in." And you would go meet the person, pull them into the circle, and then we'd be friends with them. And it's like, so I watched you go from that, and like, you really, even though like you were overweight or whatever, you never really let that hinder you from doing anything. Like, you always had boyfriends, you always had like, you know, you always worked, you always went out and met the random cute boy at the club for us. And it never hindered you. Whereas for me, it completely controlled my entire life. Like, I'm not going to talk to that person. I'm not going to go do that thing. I'm not going to, you know, whatever. And it does it to this very day. Like, it still does it to me. And so I remembered you being that person where, even though, you know, you were overweight and stuff, but you still were a bubbly, happy person. And then I watched you slowly die. And like, I know a lot of it was because Ken's health and everything weighed on you so heavily, and it was such a stress. But it's like this light inside of you died. And it used to make me so sad, because I'm like, she's so unhappy, and like, I couldn't do anything to help you.
Right.
And so when you finally, that switch clicked, I was just like, oh my God, this is awesome. Because now you have that light back in you again. Like, it's almost like you went to sleep for a while and you're waking back up. And I feel like you have this like second chance at life now, because you, as much as we are sad that Ken's not here, the heaviness of that sickness isn't weighing on you anymore. So you can be free to like go be you again and be like free of that sad burden. And like, I think it's so awesome, because you're you again. Like, you're bubbly and out there doing stuff, and like not hiding in the house anymore, and you're out walking and meeting new people. And so it's exciting to me, and it's truthfully, it's very inspiring, because I know how hard you busted your ass to get where you are. And like, you say that you can't picture yourself being like a thin person, but don't limit yourself, because you're so effing close, dude. Like, you're so effing close. So don't like think like, well, this is as good as it gets or whatever. Be happy where you are, obviously, like, because you've worked so hard and everything. But like, don't just be like, well, this is as good as it gets. So, because there's no reason why you can't keep going. And you know, but I'm super glad that you're happy where you are, because we should actually, all of us should be happy where we are. It's not normal to be beating ourselves up over like everything, but like, I know you get this. It's like, if I have a day where I don't eat anything, like nothing, those are the only days I feel good about myself. Literally.
Right.
If I had like, and it sucks because my guilty pleasure, as literally everybody knows, is coffee. And like, I can't drink just coffee. Like, it has to be like with flavor and cream. And so every day, if I get up and drink coffee, I've already failed for the day. Like that's where my mind goes. Like you've already failed today, so why even bother, Tara?
Oh, I know. That's a big
You
one.
know? And
Or
so
I'll do better tomorrow. I'll do really bad today, but I'll do better
yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I've already screwed. It's 4:30 in the morning, and I've already screwed today up. So I may as well go ahead and just like eat pizza. Like, who cares? I'll start tomorrow. And it's like, and then everybody and their brother gives you advice. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Nobody knows diets more than fat people.
No, I know. I know.
Nobody knows how to lose weight more than
Right.
somebody who needs to lose weight. Like
Exactly. And
literally.
not like that, it has to be what works for you too. You can't
Right.
just because one certain thing worked for me doesn't mean that thing's gonna work for you. You know what I mean? Like, I
Exactly.
can tell you the way I did it, and I can be like, this is how I did it, but it's not a fail-safe way for you. You have to
Right.
decide what is best for you. I
Well,
mean,
and
you have
it's not even like it's not even like that either because I have metabolic disease. So
absolutely, yeah.
people are always like, well, just don't eat as much. It
No,
doesn't
it's
work
not like
that way.
that.
Like it doesn't work that way. Like
Honestly, it was weird because when I was eating, like when I lost all the weight, I was actually eating more food than I would eat, like that
right,
I was eating more balanced than I was eating
right,
before. You know what I mean? I was eating like like actual meals like you're supposed to, like somebody's supposed to eat. You know what I mean?
right,
Not just like snacking all day
right.
long. You know what I mean? So and I was never hungry because I was always eating what I needed. It was kind of
Exactly.
where it was full food is fuel. It's not, you know what I mean? Food is
Right.
fuel. It's not like for like, your like consumption for fun. It's fuel,
It's not your blankie.
Exactly. It's not something that's gonna make you feel better.
And that's kind of a thing that happens too where so and you have PCOS also.
Mhm.
And so and you have what is it, hypoglycemia, so you're not supposed to eat carbohydrates either.
Mm-mm.
And like the thing about it, and like my endocrinologist is super cool because she's always like, dude, if you can lose even a pound, you've really won something because
Mhm.
it's your body is not built to lose weight. And
Right.
like people don't get, like, because some people can just be like, oh, I quit drinking soda and lost 30 pounds. It's like, if you are starving yourself every freaking day, all the time, and you
Mhm.
never lose weight, eventually you go, what, you know what? I'm tired of starving myself every day.
Right.
And even eating like a normal person, which
Mhm.
is not even bad, it's just you're not being meticulous about every freaking thing that goes in your mouth,
Absolutely.
you gain weight. So
Right.
it's like you starve yourself and barely lose any weight at all, or you just give up. And it's such a conundrum. And it's like people don't get that. And then they sit there and like, there's this perception that every overweight person is just fat and lazy and like sits around and eats all day. And it's like, no, that is literally not the case with most people. It's genetic, it's
Mhm.
chemistry, it's, you know, but people that who've never actually really struggled with it
Mhm.
don't get that. And so it's real easy to sit there and say, well, just get up and exercise. It's like, you don't even, that's not even the tip of the iceberg. Like, that's not
Mhm.
even.
And then when you get to a certain point, like I said with me, I couldn't even I couldn't even exercise. You know what I mean? It was like
Right.
it was kind of like I had to start off with the dieting and then like doing a little bit of exercising and I couldn't. It wasn't even really a dieting. It was kind of like just a lifestyle change altogether. Like it was just like I counted calories. The way I did it was I just counted everything I ate. I mean, and I like
Right.
made sure I only ate a certain amount of calories every day and I wrote down everything I ate and I held myself accountable for everything I ate. And I
Yeah.
did this exact same thing every day to break my food addiction because I was addicted to food. I mean, just like, and that's the funny thing is people always talk about addictions and, don't get me wrong. I under no circumstances say that, I was addicted like heroin, like a heroin addict or something like that. But you got to think of food addiction as just something really serious because you need food to survive. You
Right.
can't not eat. You know what I
Right.
mean? You don't have to, start with the crack. You know what I mean? But
Right.
like crack, but you, but you, but you have to eat. You have to eat, or
Yeah.
you won't
You can't
survive.
just quit eating.
Exactly, you can't stop. So it's kind of one of those things. You don't, so it's like, I'm not at all saying that it's the same in the same vein of having a drug addiction, but at the same time, it is an addiction and it's a hard
Well,
one to
you
break.
can't go cold turkey off of food.
You can't. There's no possible. Well, you can't. You
Right.
can eat cold turkey.
And actually, it's very healthy for you,
And
but
it's tasty. So,
yeah.
so well, but but like I said, so it's kind of one of those things where so it's look, for me, I had to break the food addiction in order to even start, like, to start to get to where I was, to
Yeah.
where I am now.
Right.
I had to break it because it's amazing how things like that just take over you, and just like, the first thought for a long time, like, because of my depression and things like that, our first thought was, okay, what am I gonna eat today? You know what I mean? It was like, it was never like, what am I gonna do today? Okay, what am I gonna eat when I wake up?
Right.
What am I
It's
what am I
literally is very much like a drug addict. Like, where are you going to get your next fix? You
right.
know?
And as a mom too, being a mom, being a parent, or being ahead of, like, being in the household and things like that, you have to focus on that too. Like, what is my son gonna eat? What
Right.
is, like, with Ken was ill, so it's like, what is he gonna eat? What are they gonna eat? So it was, food was always a thing, And so when I was cooking for me, or when I was trying to eat healthy, I was still making meals for them because they didn't want to eat what I ate. You know what I mean? So it was like, so it was kind of one of those things where I had to stop myself from picking and, doing, because when I cooked,
Yeah.
it was kind of one of those things. So, there's just so many facets of it. It's like, it's
There
not
is.
one certain thing that you have to do. It's like a whole, like, maze of things that have to,
Well,
exist. And
yeah. And I don't think people get the, like, all encompassing frustration of it. Like, it's so society, just the way, like, you feel about yourself, and then the way society views you, and the way everything is really sort of centered around food. Every get together, every work thing, everything is like, oh yeah, let's go have lunch. Oh, let's have, Christmas dinner is like a feast.
any family
Yeah.
thing has to do with barbecues, or, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you do for families, it's like, well, let's go on a picnic. Let's do this. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Always food centered. Yeah.
Well, and even like growing up, like a lot of times it would be like, oh, like let's go get a milkshake. Well,
Mhm.
what 13-year-old is going to say no?
Oh, I know, right?
You know
Oh, I
what I
know. Well, and it's always positive too. Like my family too. Like, my parents, it's like, okay, well, you hurt yourself. Oh, have some crackers and cheese. So you get your mind off it. Do
mean?
this,
Here,
or,
have some ice cream.
yeah, have some ice cream. Oh, yeah, you're sad. Here, eat this. Do this. It's kind of, and it's always like, it's always been,
It's
it's
programming. It
yeah,
really, it's
it's
like
always been
programming.
a thing. It's always been, like, a blanket for me. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not like an ill-intentioned thing.
no, not at all.
It's that somebody wants to make you happy, or like, because I can remember, like, I would go to my grandma's house or whatever, and it was always like she would make you your favorite meal.
Hmm.
Like it's this thing of love, but
Oh, absolutely.
know,
And like, a lot of times you equate that to, like,
of
you equate
course,
food with love because of that, because
of
there's so many
course,
good memories. I mean, a lot of, like, my favorite memories, like, have been centered around food, like,
of
or food in
course.
some way, so yeah, so it's just, it's kind of one of those things, um yeah, it's bizarre, but it's, I don't know. And I still struggle daily.
Of
I
course.
still, like, when Ken passed, it was like I was eating, and I still eat crappy. I eat crap, and I know I need to stop. And I keep saying, okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna start eating back, going back to where I was before. And I know in the spring when I can start walking, it's gonna be better too, because I'm gonna actually be able to start walking and stuff again. But yeah, but it's still, like, it's a struggle every day for me, to, like, try to not eat, like, really bad stuff, and,
Yeah,
try to get back to where I was. And I think I'm gonna have to go back to where I was before, where I was just eating certain things every single
yeah,
day. I think I have to break my addiction again, because I'm getting back down to the point where I'm, like, becoming addicted again. So it's
right.
like,
It's literally just like, an alcoholic who has like a relapse or whatever.
mhm.
It's the
I fell
same.
off. Yeah, I fell
It's
off the
the
food
same.
wagon.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Exactly.
totally. It's so aggravating though. And then it's like, some days I'm like, if I could just accept myself how I am, and then I'm like, I'll never do that. First of all, I don't want to. And secondly, it's like, no, I'm not going to accept it. I haven't accepted it since I was like 5. So at almost 50 years old, it's not going to happen. So I'm just like, okay, just accept the fact that you're never going to reach your goal. And it's
Right.
so, it's such a frustrating thing. And then, like I said, and then it gets reinforced by people making comments or like, it always gets reinforced. It really does. So even if it's just like in your own mind, if you could overcome that, there's always going to be some smart ass that says something.
Oh, there's always going to be somebody, and it's just like, yeah, there's always going to be somebody that's going to be negative and mean and hateful. But when you think about it that way too, though, I've always come to this realization that like people that are like that are just so sad in their own lives that they
Of
have
course.
everybody else feel bad because they feel so bad. Misery loves company. So
It's true, but it's like I don't like for me, like I know that,
right.
and I know that they're an asshole, and I shouldn't care what they say, and ultimately I don't care what they say, but because it reinforces what I say about myself,
Right.
it's just proof that I'm right. You know what I mean? It's just telling
It's just
me
that little thing that you need to just
yeah.
like put you over the edge even more. You know what I mean? Just that
Yeah.
little.
But I have to say this was fun. Oh, but before I say this, but it's still to this day like it's the main reason why I like don't want to go do like book readings, and I don't want to go do shows, and I don't want to do all this stuff because I'm so insecure about oh my god.
Sorry, I'm looking for my water. Okay, there it is. It fell over.
It's like it's the main reason why I don't want to do this stuff, because I'm always like, oh, people are going to see me in real life and they're not going to like me anymore. They're going to think like, oh my God, I didn't realize she looked like that. Or,
Right.
you know what I mean? And it's like, there's probably like 1 out of 1,000 people that might think that. But then in my head, I'm like, no, literally everybody's going to think that. Like, that, and that's really what I believe, that every single person that looks at me is going to be like, I thought she looked different than that. And now my image of her is tarnished or whatever. But the funny thing I was going to say is and I'm sure I've told you this story before, but I remember my old doctor that I used to go to. I remember one time, because he used to always get on me about my weight and stuff. And I used to always say, it's because he's afraid he's going to have to see me naked someday. That was my thing. Like, he's just like, whatever. Because I used to walk in there and he'd be like, Tara, my gothic queen. Like,
I remember you telling me.
So I'm always just like, oh, he just wants me to lose weight in case he has to like check under the hood or something. But I remember one time, 2 things he said to me that made me go, wow. And I had lost a lot of weight at one point. Yeah. And the next time he saw me, I had gained back like 15 pounds or something, which I can do literally in the course of a month. Yeah. If I actually eat food. So I went in there and he's like, what's going on with your weight? And at the time I'd been going through something, and I said, well, this happened and this happened and this happened. He's like, so why are you punishing yourself? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't know. Good question. But I just thought that was an interesting take on it. Like, bad things are happening over here, but why are you taking it out on yourself? I don't know. Mm-hmm. But then another time I was in there and I was just like, I don't know. Because at this time I was not diagnosed. Like, they hadn't diagnosed me with like the metabolic insulin resistance, all that stuff. So it was literally like, I don't know why. You just need to stop eating and, this and that, not realizing that it's more complicated than you're eating too much food, because I wasn't eating too much food. But he goes to me, he's like, I could help you lose weight really quick. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. He's like, it's called crystal meth. This is my doctor. He goes, but you'll get terribly addicted to it and like your skin will kind of rot off. So I don't know if you want to go that route, but I'm just like,
oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
I love that guy.
That guy is awesome. That's like
FYI, he ended up getting his license taken away because he had an affair with a patient. That could have been me.
I know. Like, I know.
No, that was I always just laugh at that but he actually really was a good doctor. And I'm like, who cares if he had a thing with his patient, if it was consensual, whatever, I don't care. But he was always good to me, and he was actually really good to Mike, also a really good doctor. But I just always cracked up about the whole meth thing. He's like, I could help you lose weight really quick.
Wow, that is funny. Speaking of that.
At least he didn't wink at me with his brown eye.
Well, he would have. If he had enough room, he would have
backed up.
He showed it to me right now, so that's
it'll be on your neck later when you're laying down.
Of course it will. Of course it will. Yeah, it's always there. It's always looming. The brown eye is always looming.
Ew. So what other? We've been talking now for about an hour and a half, I think.
I know.
Which these have tended to go 2 hours. My original goal was to do about an hour, but then I get yapping at people and it ends up turning into 2.
Yeah.
And I mean, we haven't talked in so long, which there's no excuse for it. We could do this every day if we wanted to, but
I know.
Just life.
I don't know why we don't do it.
I'm starting to I became very hermit-like, where I didn't really want to talk to anybody and didn't want to leave the house, which now I don't leave the house really anyway, but because I've been working from home for like 9 years, like you get so used to just being in your little world that I was getting to the point where when I would actually have to go into the office, I would get anxiety. And so I think this whole podcast thing is good because I'm technically hanging out with people.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I agree with you.
But it's in a comfortable environment of my house. So like baby steps.
Exactly.
Me actually leaving the house at some point.
Exactly.
So
it's weird because like I didn't work. I was like, you know, that was another thing that happened like after I lost weight and stuff like that. I actually got a job, and because I wasn't working for the longest time, and of course I got a job at a gas station, which was like fantastic. But at the same time,
cream of the crop.
I know. Oh, nothing but up for me, my friend. Anyway.
And that was not anything about to do with the job. That was to do with the people that you have to deal with.
Absolutely. Yeah. And not only that, but it's like the whole thing was it was like, you know, it was the fact that I got out of the house and I was able to talk to people, and like you said, like you've talked to like recent, like we were just talking about, I used to be real social, and for the longest time I wasn't at all, because, you know, I just, you know, I got into a point where I just didn't want to go out of the house. So
yeah.
So my social skills were like lacking, you know, like big time. But it's funny because, you know, just doing that and getting out, that helped too, just being able to be around people and stuff again. And
yeah.
I don't know. So it's just kind of one of those things where there was like 100 different changes all at once, and
you were kind of forced to make them. And sometimes I think when we're forced to do things, it's definitely for our own benefit. Even when like all the stuff that's going on in my life right now with like work stuff and everything, it's like, you know, you don't change things like that unless you have to. And now I have to, and I think it'll end up benefiting me in a lot of ways.
Right.
Again, getting out of that shell thing. And so like I could actually see how basically what's going on is I'm going to have to train a bunch of people. It's complete strangers that I don't know online. And I think between like doing that and like kind of doing these podcasty things, it's kind of like inching me back towards like social, real life meeting strength, like going back. Because back in the day, like when we were on tour and stuff, I had like no fear of like meeting people. Yes, I was insecure, but like it didn't bother me to like meet new people, and I was, you know, or anything like that. And then I've gotten to the point where I was like, ooh, I'm all shy, ooh, social anxiety. And I wasn't like that when I was younger. Yes, I was insecure, but I wasn't like socially, like I didn't have panic attacks being in a club, you know what I mean? Or anything like that.
No, absolutely.
But I have gotten to that point, like now, where like the past couple of years and stuff, like friends of ours would come into town to play a show, and I would be like, yes, I'm going to go. It's going to be so much fun. I'm going to see my friend, blah, blah, blah. And then as the days leading up to it, I would get increasingly more sick feeling and like had to cancel like almost all of it because I would have such anxiety that I would physically feel sick and stuff. And I'm like, well, how am I ever supposed to go on tour again or like play a show or like do book stuff or whatever if I can't even go to like Dirk's school function without having anxiety? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think like all of these kind of changes that are being thrust upon me are so dramatic.
Like you said, thrust.
Thrust. I think it'll end up sort of serving a greater purpose, maybe.
Oh yeah, I think so too. I think it'll be a good thing. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, yeah, it's easy to do that though. It's easy to get to a point, especially with the way the world is right now. It's like easy to like kind of not want to go out into it. You know what I mean? It's like, and I mean, it's scary. It's really scary. I mean, I mean, I had COVID, so I mean, I was actually sick. I had it. Eli came home and he was sick and I didn't even realize he had it. And then like a couple days later, I got really sick and I had it. I was sick for like, like 2 weeks, really sick. And I've been out there the whole time. Like I've been working, at the gas station and, and this whole time I've been out working. I haven't been, I haven't been able to be home and working from home or anything like that.
Let's clarify that you were not out running around while you had COVID.
No. I was working. I was working. Yeah. I was going crazy without a mask on and just like running around naked. Yeah.
But when you had COVID, you were actually at home.
I was in the house.
Yes. Thank you. Weeks. Thank you.
And yes, I went nowhere.
You were spreading it.
Exactly. I was not. I did do nothing. I did nothing for 2 weeks. No, I was home. But when I, like I said, but I was out the whole time before when COVID was, when it was really bad, like when it first started and I worked the whole time. And then when I got it, like I got it in October, I think, September, October, something like that. And like I said, when I had it, I was home or whatever. But yeah, so I know, I was one of the lucky ones that didn't get, I was sick. I got really sick. But at the same time, Eli had just like, he had lots of taste and smell. And I was really sick, but, I was one of the lucky ones that didn't get, didn't end up in the hospital or anything like that. But yeah, it's just kind of one of those things. Like even with me, I was wearing my mask, staying, not going out when I didn't have to, and not going places where I didn't, you know what I mean? Like trying to do what I could do, and I still got it, you know what I mean? So it's just these people that are, running around, willy nilly, you know what I mean? It's like,
I see people posting on my friends list all the time, and they're out with their friends, and none of them are wearing masks, and I'm just like, if you knew some of the horror stories of people, I think that you would take it a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, it's true. It's a scary thing. It's like, and even like I said, I was lucky. I'm extremely, if I was, just say this, if I were to have gotten that when I was like 500 pounds, I probably wouldn't be here.
You already had a hard time breathing.
Exactly. So I wouldn't have been, and that's another like I said, if I would have gotten it, at that point, luckily I was healthy when I had it, I was pretty healthy when I got it. So, but like I said, I think that's another reason why social anxiety is like such a, such a major thing. He's going to sit here and talk with me too. But yeah, I think that's another reason why like social anxiety is such a big thing right now too, because people are sure. That stuff too, and I don't know, and it's like I don't know, it's crazy to think about.
Like I feel like I'm probably always gonna have a mask with me going forward, just because. Okay, so I was already like, get your damn flu shot and stop coughing on people. And if you're sick, stay home already. And like knowing how kind of flagrant some people are with not following rules. Now I'm just like, you know what? From now on, like during cold and flu season, I'll just wear a mask when I go to the store. Who cares? Like it's not that big of a deal. They already do this in other countries. Like during flu season, you wear a mask. Like it's not.
That's why a lot of countries are already like they've already like eradicated this thing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like wash your freaking hands, cover your face. It's not that complicated. So I kind of feel like this has changed. Well, and girl, you know me, right? You know I used to just lick random stuff. You know that. I used to lick handrails to amuse you guys. We're at Geauga Lake waiting in line at the double loop, and I'm like, watch this. Licking I mean, that's who I was.
No, absolutely.
Let alone as an adult, it's like you didn't think anything about like you buy a can of pop and just pop it open and drink it. Like wash that fucking thing off. Like that's gross. Like if you think about it now, it's like that's gross not to wash things that are going directly into your mouth. Like
yeah, I agree with you.
Granted, we, you know, and I still believe this. We have an immune system, so like you're built to take on some germs, but
right. And you probably
some germs will kill you.
That like rail licking.
Yeah, don't be rail licking, okay?
That's like the hashtag rail licking.
I don't want to know. Don't Google search rail licking because I guarantee it's not what I'm talking about. It can't possibly be what I'm talking about. I guarantee it's thing somewhere. What are you into? I like long walks. I like sunsets, long walks on the beach, and rail licking. And dudes wearing garbage bags, man. That's my thing.
Those are my favorite things.
I'm gonna lick that garbage bag, as a matter of fact. Used or not used. That's just, if it's used, there's food in it, probably.
Exactly. And if the garbage bag is on a rail, a handrail, you cannot, you know.
A dude. You can't pass that up. A dude wearing a garbage bag sitting on a handrail at Disneyland, that's about pinnacle of hot to me.
I know, right? I mean, you can't pass that up.
Big white gloves, saxophone, forget about it.
Always a saxophone, wearing a monocle.
Top hat. Did they have top hats on? No, I'm thinking Mr. Peanut. Good Lord.
Those applets.
Yeah. Give him progressive hair.
I want a boy with progressive hair. I know, that's, you know.
Dude, Mike still makes fun of me about the progressive hair thing. Like every once in a while, he'll just be like, was he progressive?
Did he have progressive hair? What's progressive hair?
I don't know.
It's growing.
It's progressing before him.
It's like...
Hey, that one dude had that hair, remember?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to say names, but that guy had his hair and it was like this kind of in the front.
Oh, yeah. There was a couple girls who went to school that had hair like that, too.
Well, yeah. The bangs. Mall bangs.
The 80s bangs, yeah.
Remember, I used to do that. I would, in the morning, I had that bob and then I had bangs, and I would take a blow dryer and blow one part up and spray it. So it would be like right here, it would be like, and then the rest.
I have a picture of you, like a you of me, like I just looked at the other day, and you had those bangs.
Yeah.
It wasn't like those bangs, but it was like, you know.
It was this.
Yeah.
Well, it was more like this.
It was. It was. Yeah. It was kind of like, you know, like. Yeah.
And like my hair was curly, like I had a perm. What's up with that?
I don't know, because my hair's never been. I always had stick pin straight hair, so it was like.
Me too, except it turned curly. Like my hair legit turned curly right around age 35. My hair started getting curly, like right in the crown. And even my hairdresser, who I've been going to for years, she's like, what the hell? Your hair is curly all of a sudden. And obviously it was like some hormone thing, whatever. But now it's straightened back out again. So it was like straight as can be, curly. Now it's like straight again. It's weird.
That is weird. And weird. It's weird. Like my hair, like, with me, it's like, I've always had a lot of hair. Like, it's not like been thick hair, but it's always been a lot of hair. But then like my hair thinned out there for a while.
Mine too.
Now it's starting to get back to where it was a little bit. It's still thinner than it was, but it's still like, but it did thin, and it used to freak me out because I'm like, oh my gosh, I want a baby doll head. I didn't want baby doll head. That was like, I'm talking about baby doll head.
Yes, I do. Mine fell out really bad after I had Dirk, and it hasn't really fully recovered. Like, I don't have any bald spots or anything like that, but like my hair used to be mega thick, and now like everyone's always like, your hair is so thick. I'm like, it is, but it still creeps me out that it's not as thick as it used to be.
Oh yeah, I remember you used to be in pain because remember you used to wear pigtails and stuff, and you'd like would hurt your head because
my scalp still gets sore. Like,
yeah,
and it's all one length now. Like, I like it better when it has layers in it because it does kind of fill it out and it takes some of the weight off of it. And like now it's too thick. Well, it's not too thick. It's too heavy because it's not thinned out in the right spots, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, I'm contradicting myself. I get headaches from it. It pulls my scalp, and it my scalp gets really sore sometimes.
Right.
Fascinating. Just
it really is fascinating. I'm fascinated by your scalp.
People are on the edge of their seats with this conversation. I'm sure.
I know the rail licking and the.
No, I think that's probably entertaining on some level. I don't know. It made us laugh, right?
Yeah, I mean, but that there's sometimes it doesn't take a lot.
This is true. I feel like people are perpetually disappointed in me.
Aw.
True.
One single tear.
One single tear. I'll cry about it later.
Exactly.
By the way, okay, back to the weird stuff for a second, and then we'll cut this short or less long.
Okay,
less long. So, I have these things that happen to me randomly every so often, and it just happened yesterday. Mm-hmm. So tell me if this has ever happened to you.
Okay. And
you should, you probably remember one of these stories from back in the day. Mm. So are you ever sleeping, sound asleep, and then your eyes just pop open, right? And then you see something in the room. Mm-hmm. So if you remember this years and years and years and years and years ago, the first time this happened to me, I was sleeping and I actually had my lights on in my room and everything. My eyes popped open and I saw this woman floating over the bed with blonde hair and like a white dress. And it was like she was blowing in the wind kind of. And I stared at it for a while. And then my brain goes, that's not supposed to be there. And I freaked out. Okay. And then it disappeared. So this has happened to me with other random things since then. I've seen amorphous balls of light. I've seen geometric patterns. I've seen spiders multiple times. And the spiders are like this big. That's what I saw yesterday. Again, I'm sleeping, eyes pop open. I watched a spider this big crawl from one side of the ceiling to the other side of the ceiling, and it disappeared. And the funny thing is usually it startles me. I'm usually, when I see these things, I go, oh my God, like I'm watching it quietly. And then my brain goes, that's not supposed to be here. And then I freak out and then it disappears. Last night I saw it and I'm staring at it and I'm like, okay, that's a spider. And then I go, oh, this is one of those things that I see sometimes. And it didn't scare me anymore. And I watched it walk and I just stared at it until it went away. The scariest one, this one really freaked me out. Mike and I were sleeping. My eyes popped open. And at the end of the bed, a person that looked like Predator was standing at the foot of the bed, just staring at me.
Creepy.
And of course, my brain goes, that's not supposed to be there. And I started freaking out and like kicking and screaming. And Mike's like, what the hell's going on? And I'm like, there's a guy. And he's like, what are you talking about? And then it disappeared. So anyway, I don't know what that is. I think it's like sort of, what do they call that? Sleep paralysis, maybe.
Right.
But, or your brain's still dreaming or something like that. But has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, there's been things like that have happened, weird stuff like that, like where, you know, you wake up. I kind of wonder what that thing was that happened with the knocking, you know
With
what I
the
mean?
knocking?
Yeah, and just like I've heard random weird things, you know, you hear weird things. Or like in my room, the one day I was like, I swear I saw something like a shadow, like walking across the by my door, you know what I mean? Like, and then it's like you see it and you swear you see it, and then like you blink because you're like, okay, I don't see that, and then it goes away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to tell yourself that it's not there, and then
like once your brain registers it,
that it's not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah. I wonder if that's like a normal thing though. I wonder if it's like your subconscious. You know what I mean?
It happens to a lot of people because I actually talked to again on my friend's Strange Familiars podcast. I talked about it on there, and he told me, I don't remember if he told me on there or separately, that like a lot of people have that, and like some people see, like that's kind of what the old hag is. Like people have that thing where that woman's on their chest, or like another thing people see is this thing called the flannel man, where it's like a guy with a flannel shirt and he looks sort of like a lumberjack. But which I'm like, that I said to him, I go, I kind of have a crush on the flannel man. That's probably not a good idea. But anyway, like don't show up, dude. No, I just cursed myself for that to happen probably. But no. Anyways, my brain's going like 10 different directions. I also sort of like half kind of wonder sometimes is like, you know, when you're in that sleep state, maybe like you're sort of peering into other dimensions because your brain's not fully function, like it's in this weird state of, you know, whatever. Yeah. So I'm like, maybe they're looking at you the same way you're looking at them, like you're not supposed to be there. You're not supposed to be it, you know?
See me, you know what I mean? Or yeah, exactly. That's true. I agree with you.
Kind of interesting.
It is. It's pretty interesting when you think about that kind of stuff. I mean,
yeah.
Well, you know that they say that you don't use like any infinitesimal amount of your brain that you could use.
Yeah.
We don't know what exactly we can do with our brain. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
isn't it something like only 10% or something? We use a very small fraction of our brain.
So there's so many things that are like inside there that we don't even know about. You know what I mean? And like, maybe that's just another thing, like another facet of the brain that we're not even like, you know, that it's like slightly illuminated at some point, and then like it just like loses its spark. You know what I mean? Like and that's why I think they say as children you have so many, you see so many more things as children.
Yeah.
You're not as jaded and things like that.
Yeah.
And you allow your brain to go further as a
right.
child, as an adult.
Right. And then people tell you, oh no, that's not real. So you.
Right. Oh yeah. And then, oh, that's imaginary. That's something that, you know, that's something that's inside your head. And, you know, the whole imagination thing, you know, I mean, who's to say that the imagination isn't just part of that too? You know what I mean? I mean, like stories that you come up with, like, you know, even like stories that you come up with, and like books that you write and stuff like that, and the things that are inside your head, who's to say that that's not something that actually is like actually happening in some other dimension? Or
I know. I think the same thing, like maybe I'm somehow tapping into somebody else's life, you know? Actually, I was walking around the neighborhood the other night, and this strange, like really strong sensation came over me, like, you know, my character Lux. I was like, what if he just was here all of a sudden? What if he just landed beside of me and said, hey, Tara? And like, what would my reaction be to that? You know what I mean?
I know, right?
It's kind of interesting to, I don't know. I love all that kind of stuff though. Like I love thinking about like alt dimensions and like alt dream states, and, you know,
Oh yeah.
Why is it that sometimes you get like, what is deja vu? What is,
Oh, deja vu. Like, yeah, that's so bizarre. That deja vu
yeah,
thing.
because
That
it
happens
feels, it
sometimes.
just happened to me yesterday. I read an email, a work email, and I was like, I have read this email before. It was so strong. And then I was like part of a group email. This one person sent an email and I was like, oh my God, I've read that before. And then the person that responded to it, I felt the exact same thing. And then I just was like, this is weirded me out. And I quit thinking about it, but it was really weird. And then even stuff like sometimes you'll be out like this happens to me a lot at night, where if I'm outside at night and I look at the moon, I have this weird otherworldly feeling like I'm connected to a different time. So it's like, is it something like at one point an ancestor of mine was looking at the moon, and somehow that feeling got transferred to me like through blood or something? Like, I don't know, it's interesting. But
It is.
yeah. Anyway, so I guess we'll stop talking now.
Yeah.
You look like you're falling asleep.
Yeah, I gotta be at work. I gotta get up for work at 4:30. So, and it's like 11 here. So,
Gross.
but
All
yeah,
right, well,
I hate
this
it.
has been super fun.
It has. We have to do this more often, honestly. I mean, not necessarily in this venue, but
Right.
we have to talk
I'm
more.
wiping snot off my nose.
That's good. Good
Yeah.
times.
I'm very classy.
You are. Just don't stick it in your bosom like after.
Boobies make a good, like, I'm always shoving stuff in there.
Well, you know that the best thing is, like I said, working in gas stations and places like that. People always like to try to give you boob money and stuff like that.
Right.
Like,
Nice and moist.
it's always good. I love it when people would come in the summer and like they hand me like a wet dollar bill that was out of their
Oh.
pants. Wet. Yeah, it was fantastic.
You know what you do with that? You go, you lick it.
Yeah, that's what you would have done. That's what you like.
Lick the change and hand it back to them.
Of course you do.
Wedge it in your crack for a second.
That's
And then
the plan. That's exactly what. Yeah, that's later on. That's
it's after dinner fun.
that's
I don't know
after,
what that means.
like a mint.
Yeah. But slightly more savory.
Savory. Oh, gross. I'm gonna forever come up with think of the phrase rail liquor.
Don't Google search it. I probably will Google search it now.
I know you kind of have to now, right? Because I wonder what that is.
I'm totally
like
putting that hashtag.
Exactly, like Wikipedia it or something. Be like rail liquor.
It's probably on like Pornhub or something.
Oh my gosh. And yeah, the dark internet. There's like
The dark web.
Subset of of rail liquors.
I got an email the other day. It was like a junk mail, and it said, "We found your information on the dark web." I'm like, have at it. Exactly. There's nothing interesting about me that you're gonna find. Sorry.
I always get like things about my erectile dysfunction. I'm like,
Yeah.
I do have an erectile dysfunction.
As a matter of fact, yeah. I have a hard time getting going.
I haven't had an erection in years.
You're not licking enough rails, dude.
Therein lies the problem, right there. If I was rail liquor, I wouldn't have an erection.
Then you wouldn't be able to get it down. That's a whole nother set of problems.
Exactly.
You got to go to the emergency room for that.
Exactly. If it's longer than 4 hours.
Right. If it's longer than 4 hours, you're not trying hard enough.
Oh my gosh.
And on that note,
yeah,
I love and adore you.
I love you too.
And we will do this again, and we'll do videos again too, like podcasts. I think it's fun.
I think it's fun too.
Yeah. We'll try not to talk about anything that people could misperceive as
That's
something
funny.
that it wasn't.
Exactly. But you know, yeah.
Is Eli around there?
I was trying to get him. Eli.
Tell him,
Elijah.
tell him to pop his face in.
Eli. Elijah. Elijah Isaiah. He was just here. Give me 1 second. Eli. 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 Come here for a second. Come here. He's coming. I was trying to get him to come earlier. He's coming. He's good. And yeah, but he's
I like your
yeah.
sweater.
Huh?
I like your sweater.
Oh, thank you. This lady that. Oh, and did you see the shirt that I'm wearing?
I did.
I'm wearing my Pickles Cage shirt. Come here. Come here.
Tell him to poke his face around the corner.
He wants you to pop your face in so she can see you.
Hi.
Hi.
There's Eli. This is my
Nice to
son.
see your face.
Okay. Yeah, I know. But anyway,
Now
yeah.
leave. Did you
What?
hear me? Now leave.
She said now leave. She was just joking.
I can still see his reflection in your mirror.
Oh, I know. Go back to your room.
All right.
Okay.
I will get this uploaded tonight. And if you want any, I don't know if you're plugging anything. I don't know if you've got any creative endeavors going on. Snidely, did you hear that? If you want any links you want me to share, pop them in the email.
I didn't I'm not plugging.
God.
I
I have so many jokes for that. I have so many jokes for that I can make, but I'm not going to embarrass you. So
I know
or
that's
myself or other people. All right.
That's what I was.
You go get some sleep.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Tara. Love you.
Love you too.
How do I turn the call?